Yeah. Okay, yes, it is here. Okay. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, May 30th or Friday, 31st of May, depending on your time zone. And this is the fortnightly meeting for design and UX for Backdrop CMS. Usually before we start its meeting, we do a short introduction of each person joining. I'll start with myself. I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. I'm interested in anything related to Backdrop CMS in any way that I can help, especially UX and workflow and making things easier. Let's go with Tim. Or actually, let's give you some time. Let's go with Savastri and give you some time to prepare. Melanie,
Okay,
let's
my
go.
name is Sarvasri and I'm in North Carolina. And I'm interested in Backdrop for small business and for nonprofits. And I don't know that I can contribute much to the design aspect from a coding point of view, but I'm interested in ease of use. So we'll go to Tim.
Sure. My name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. I have been, I guess the big thing for me is I've been exploring the idea of porting, not really porting, but using a WordPress theme as a model to create kind of a bundle of a new theme for Backdrop and some recipes that go together that someone could use to spin up sort of a portfolio site for a digital agency or something. Actually, maybe we could just talk real briefly about that today because it's kind of a design UX thing. If we have time, we'll see. And maybe Irina may be joining us a little later to show us a recipe that she's worked on, and they could those two topics might go well together. But other than that, we don't have a firm agenda today, right? So we're here. Sarvasri, did you have something for this meeting that you thought any design UX issues? We were talking about some commerce stuff right before the meeting, but
Yeah, I'm getting my websites up.
Okay.
Greg is helping. And we noticed some issues as we went through it where there were things to click on to confirm what you were selecting, but there was no box around it. It did not have a colored background, and you wouldn't know that you're supposed to click on it because it wasn't indicated. For a new
Okay.
user, of course, if people are using it, then they know where they should click. But
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a design standard for Backdrop for these kinds of things or what.
We have certain
ahead.
best practices. I wouldn't say design system, but we have certain best practices and certain things. Some of us pick certain specific things when it comes to consistency, and we try to fix them, but we don't specifically have very frequently active designers specifically or UX experts. I would say that we mostly have UX enthusiasts around in the community.
So there's no kind of style guide in our documentations about decisions we've made regarding.
Yeah.
There are style guides in the documentation.
Yes, it should be.
Yeah, that would be a nice thing to do, but again, we need somebody that would want to spearhead that.
We need a UX person to be in charge of that.
Yeah,
or a couple of people.
Yeah, rather than waiting for people to join the community or contribute and be specialists in the field, because we can iteratively fix things, we like to fix things like in a less professional way, I would say, or I don't know how to describe it. And then there can be follow-up issues to improve on that rather than leaving them, having a nasty user experience. And we've been doing that for years, which has sort of like incrementally improved the user experience in Backdrop a lot. Like we fixed small annoyances, workflow, improved the workflow or the wording of certain things. So over time, this has improved things a lot.
I remember we talked about having kind of a style guide before. I think I could see it going into the doc site and sort of where we have change records, coding and documentation standards. There could be kind of a style guide, and we could just, as we go and make sort of decisions, I'm thinking about things like, what should a link look like, in core. So this would be style guidelines for core. And I think there are certain guidelines that we sort of share and talk about, but it might be good to just have a page that we document those on.
I remember in the early days of Apple, I signed up to be a developer there once upon a time, and they had very nice style
Mhm.
guidelines for all the apps that you would produce for the Mac, and they also have it for
Site.
for tablets and phones as well. And certain things are supposed to operate a certain way in a uniform way, so that when you were using an app, you would know how to do it. You would know what things were right clickable or what you could click on. It's kind of degenerated a bit because now Apple is hiding everything until you hover over some place that you don't know you're supposed to hover over. And I think that style guide is not working as well as it used to. Do other
Sure.
CMS, does Drupal have style guides, or
Yes.
other CMS have style guides that we could adopt some
So
subset
the
of?
thing, yeah. So the thing with Drupal is that our Drupal brethren are doing an amazing job, but they have a lot more people in the community that are
Right.
design experts, and they're dedicating. They actually have what they call gateways. Before a specific change needs to pass and get into core, they need to adhere to specific design standards and accessibility standards as well. And they're doing a lot of meticulous work, and you can see that in the Claro admin theme that they have created, because it's very carefully designed
So I
down to
just
the
found, yeah, I
If
just
you-
found this, which essentially is a style guide for our internal sites. So the forum site, whatever, and it talks about, how we should be using titles and headings and things.
uh-huh.
And a lot of this probably would apply to core as well, but some of it's going to be specific to our internal sites. But I
yeah.
think having something like this for making design-based decisions would be
Yeah, for
helpful.
instance, certain things that I keep fixing when I have pull requests is, like, for example, when we have checkboxes and radio buttons, where for the
Right.
various options, we shouldn't put a period at the end,
Right.
or for the labels. And sometimes, because we merge things from contrib, or because we don't pay attention when we do the code review, one or two of these might have slipped in core, and eventually we fix them. But it's more a matter of consistency rather than really usability issues.
Mhm. Well, if other people are working on this, I don't know if there's a style guide for the internet or not, but different browsers have different interfaces that people are becoming familiar with. Usually the search bar is at the top and all that sort of thing. If people are getting used to a certain way of working, we can leverage that by using style guides from all over the place and just see what we could just grab that's ubiquitous and make that our style guide.
Yeah. Sure, we could do something like that. We just really need somebody to take the lead on it, and it would be
Yeah.
picking. There's going to be competing style guides out there, so the thing would be to pick which things we want to use and which we don't. But I think the main way we would create it is just as we make design decisions in core, to just document them in one place. So we have sort of an archive or history. Here are decisions we've kind of made about how we want certain things to look in core.
So
So
this backdrop admin style guide that you have here on the screen.
yeah, I think this is more for, again, for our, like, the theme, but it's probably more for like
The 7th theme.
Well, or
Could be.
I'm not sure, or is it administration theme and backdrop?
Yeah.
It's a staging ground for developing the look and feel of the admin theme for backdrop. So this could be something that
Yes.
we developed back a long time ago. Let's look. Which probably hasn't last edited 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah.
So, yeah. So actually, this might be. I bet there's there's something here we need to look in, but I don't know that I want to make that the priority today.
No, I'm just,
So, yeah.
looking for future. And if we have somebody who's really interested,
Yeah.
got some skills, some artistic skills or something.
Yep.
We could draw upon those people maybe. I don't know who would.
Yeah, my
Get that
my
bill.
inclination is to spend time talking about this once we have somebody willing to do it,
Do
and
it.
not
Yeah.
spend a lot of time talking about how to do something when there's no one to do it, because that's not helpful. I don't have time to take this on, so
Yeah. Neither
Okay.
do I.
Can we broadcast
sure.
for
You
some
can-
looking for a style guide chief or something?
Or you can ask around and see if somebody wants to do that. Let's go back to.
So would we use Zulip for that or
Yes. Maybe a thread in
Yep.
Zulip is a good idea to start it.
or
Yeah.
or the forum?
Yeah. And the forum.
Could do either.
Yeah. Or both.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
either or both. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, what am I looking for? Oh, I wanted to go to just back to the core issue queue.
So maybe one of us could, maybe I could do that. Post a desired position.
Just ask
yeah,
if
soliciting
somebody's
help. Yeah.
ask if there's somebody interested in working on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that does raise another question, which is I'd love for us to have a more central space to ask, just to list volunteer tasks that we are looking for people to work on. But
Is there a volunteer section?
no, we don't really have a good answer to that, and that would be another thing, a small task to do, is just to better coordinate how we do that. But
Okay.
again, I think that's a topic for another day.
All right. I'll think on that and maybe.
Sure. So should we just jump into the issue queue? Oh, Irina's here.
Hi,
Well, welcome,
Hello.
Irina.
hi, how are you?
Good.
Good
So
to see
you said you had something you wanted to share us. So we haven't really started anything. We've been chatting. So
Oh,
you're not interrupting anything.
I have been working on the recipe that I need for a variety of reasons,
Okay.
and I am happy to show it. Let me, what I want to do is to kind of do a sanity check,
Yep.
just to make sure that, and we're not casting right now, right?
No, we are. So if you don't
Oh.
want to be, this is
No, but that's fine.
okay. We're streaming and recording right now.
Okay, so out of the box in Backdrop, we have card content type, but sometimes it is more convenient to work with paragraphs
Sure.
and components than with blocks. I didn't do a very thorough search. I kind of glanced and I need several components. So what I've done is I followed the recipe and I called it components recipe. I built it following instructions, which are great.
Okay.
So this way I can release it if anyone else wants to use it.
Yep.
And the goal for this recipe is what I'm doing in the recipe, I'm creating 3 types of paragraphs. Maybe eventually I will extend them, but for now, these are 3 basic components that I need. And that's what I wanted to run by everyone to see if there's any, the components are supposed to be block, alert, and text block.
Sure.
So people can put things wherever they need, and then I'm gonna start theming them now. And what we're doing is we're reproducing standard blocks configuration that we use at Stanford.
Right.
Are
I
there,
don't know if something
So
like
that-
that already exists or not.
Well,
is there a
yes.
graph image component in there?
Sorry?
And a place for image additions?
Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
An image, a JPEG or something.
Yes.
are
So
are
the
you
card
asking
is
for,
pretty,
like, go ahead.
Is there a place to enter an image to put it somewhere?
yes.
Yes. Let me,
Yes. So on the card component has 4 components: image, headline, text, and link. Because this is like a very standard card layout that you would see almost anywhere on the web these days.
right.
Right.
Plain text allows people to move things around, like I want to have full block of text, and then I want to have cards, and then I want something else. This is the purpose of the text block, to make it easier to move things around. And also eventually we need to be able to do like three layout, 3-column layout, 2-column layout, right?
Sure.
So these are kind of use case.
Right. So this touches on a couple of topics, Irina. First of all, Laren has done some work on a contributed module, which is kind of like special recipes for paragraphs. But he never put it in to my knowledge, he never put it in the backdrop space. It was an experimental module that he was working on. And I don't know if he's worked on it for over a year, but he did give some of us access to it like a year and a half ago. And basically it's meant to be like recipes, but specifically for paragraphs. So you can basically have a library of paragraphs that you can just download and install, and it has like a better UI. Now, so I definitely recommend checking in with Laren and seeing if that's something that could be revived.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with experimenting with it. Actually, if you like showed Laren what you're doing, that might motivate him to like work on it. Because I think his idea would be better for your particular use case, but his idea is very specific to paragraphs. One, I don't remember how Laren solved this. So one of the things I'd like to ask you, Irina, in your recipe, have you addressed styling at all, like CSS? Because one of the things I think with paragraphs that would be really nice is if you could provide some styling for them as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I'm just wondering if you've done that at all or not.
You like
So
This is a
typing?
problem in general with recipes right now, is that in theory, recipes really shouldn't have CSS in them. Because if you include CSS in them, the CSS won't work once you turn off the recipe. And one of the things about recipes is they're supposed to just install and then be done. Then you could throw away the module. But if you have CSS in it, it doesn't go away, other than the hack solution we came up with, which was the CSS injector.
I think that there's also a color a module that provides color fields, which provide a color selector. So
Yeah.
if you add a color field to the paragraph and hide it from display, so basically you will have a color selector with each paragraph for a background color, say,
Sure.
right? And then you don't show that field, you just use it to generate the background. And people can select, okay, I want to have this piece of block, which is horizontal, whatever, and I want it to have a black background or a gray background.
Yeah.
Or you can go the other way and provide select fields which plug into like templates of color templates, like the ones we use in the themes. So see how when we go to bases that supports a color and there's a drop-down selector that you can select a template.
Mhm.
I don't know, ice blue, green leaves, whatever, and then it formats the whole thing. So that because I've seen what Irina just showed in other design systems or custom solutions where they provide the very same thing. Commonly used blocks where they have just the text, the image to the left, the image to the right, multiple
Yep.
images, what have you. But they also have this element where you select the color, which is really cool.
What about typefaces, fonts?
Well, that
Okay.
can be selected on the theme level, I think. Then you're
Right.
going way too much for a recipe.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Irene, I mean, does your current recipe do anything style-wise, or does it just provide the?
Not right now.
Yeah.
Because I just played with it a couple of hours. It's not like,
Yep.
oh, that's complete development. And the reason why I wanted to show it earlier is exactly like, okay, if somebody already done something
Yeah.
here, and if Laren has Laren has already something in place, I'd be more than happy to pick up from whatever he has done and contribute and then release it.
Sure. The thing with Laren's solution is that it's a PHP, it's a module that provides a UI for managing like paragraph recipes, which just means that, for example, for me, that's not something I feel like I can contribute to very much because it's writing code for a module, right? It's not just creating a recipe. I can create a simple recipe, a config recipe for paragraphs that doesn't use his system. But I'd love to see him finish his system, and so we should talk to him about it. And if you think you have any resources to help him finish his system, I think that would be great. He did there. I don't know if we have a recording of it anywhere. We might have a recording where he demos it.
He demoed it to you and I, but I'm not sure it was recorded. It was after.
Well, he's done it at Backdrop Live, and he also, I think we might have had him demo it at a user group meeting. So it wouldn't have been like the whole user group meeting, but he might have did a short demo at if we did a user group meeting about paragraphs, he might have done a demo during that. So I'd have to look it up. But
Got it.
so you should be
Laren?
aware of that. But I wouldn't stop working on what you're doing and wait for Laren unless you've talked to Laren and you know that he's going to work on it.
Was it Laren that created that UI or was it Joseph?
No, that was Laren's project.
Okay.
Joseph is doing Joseph is working on a UI for recipes.
Recipes, yes.
Joseph has a separate UI for
Which is really awesome. Yeah.
Which is also very awesome, but that's different. And Jen has also started a UI for recipes that's different but hers is just a UI for downloading recipes. Joseph's
like a browser. Yeah.
It's like a browser, right? Whereas Joseph's UI is a UI for building recipes.
Can I also interject, because I'm sure that it's going to come up during one of the topics that I want to bring up for the dev meeting later on. It has to do with the thing that you just mentioned. That just bear with me, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, sorry, guys. It has to do with the bit that you just mentioned now, Tim, about PHP code in recipes. So Joseph and I contemplated shortly in one of the previous meetings, I'm not sure if it was recorded, especially now with the Starshot initiative that started in Drupal space. We sort of like started comparing how recipes in Backdrop behave and how in Starshot. And in Starshot, in the Drupal space, they behave more like scripts that you run and that's it. They don't execute any code. But if you want to write some accompanying code, you can still put it in a very minimalistic module that your recipe can require. And because we have Project Browser in Backdrop, we can have the recipe actually download and install any required module. So it wouldn't be manual work for whoever was running the recipe. The recipe would basically run the script, get any required modules or what have you, and it's sort of like decouples the module aspect, the custom code from the recipes. And our thinking was that it should be writing recipes should be as simple as writing tests in Behat, like saying download module with that name, enable module with that name. execute or change this configuration and make it from true to false or whatever. So basically the recipes would be in somewhat plain human language instead of code. But we have been only contemplating this idea. How this started is because we wanted to get some recipes out there. We accepted the fact that recipes for now, as they are in the current implementation, because they're not in core per se, are just modules, very simplistic modules. But as a type, when you create the .info file, they just say type equals module, as far as I know.
Yes.
We didn't create a higher level of project type the way that we have theme, module, layout, template. We didn't create a separate type recipe. And maybe as we mature, we might see the need to do that now.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a topic for the dev meeting.
Right.
Just as I felt I need to mention it because you and Irina were discussing the PHP aspect of things.
Irina, I started an initiative which I think overlaps with yours, and there might be some room to combine it, because I think we're looking for similar goals.
Okay. I love combining, totally. Tell me what to do.
So I picked sort of an arbitrary project. So one of the things that one of my frustrations with the Backdrop sort of theme and layout system is that, and we've talked about this before real quickly, I think in Drupal and WordPress, you have very opinionated themes that are like, they have almost functionality built into the templates. Something you could do in a Drupal theme, because the layout system was tied to layout were tied to the theme, is you could create layouts that were very specific. So you could do a portfolio site, or you could do a certain kind of a site, and you could create layouts for it, and then theme very specific to that use case, right? And so this wasn't a broad theme. It was as kind of a narrow theme. And I think in Backdrop, because we've sort of taken layouts out and we have themes and layouts separate, that contrib themes feel like they have to be ultimately flexible, right? You don't create a portfolio site recipe or theme because that isn't, there is nothing in the theme that's specific to a layout. All it is a skin. And so I think it's not that you can't create narrow opinionated themes, but I think the way we do things sort of discourages it. And I wanted to experiment with that. And partly to also, and one of my frustrations about recipes is that, like, what I want, Irina, is a library of paragraphs like what you're doing. But sometimes what really makes the paragraph powerful is some CSS that actually makes it look good once you've installed the recipe. And our recipes really don't provide for that. And so I just decided, again, rather than trying to come up with an entirely new way of doing things, like what Greg is talking about, that I don't know how to implement, that I would just figure out how to implement the things we do have in a way that does that. And I found a theme in a WordPress theme, and it's fairly arbitrary choice.
Okay.
But I just found this WordPress theme, and it was just something that looked sort of practical and doable. And I thought, what is the equivalent of this in Backdrop? Well, this isn't just a skin, right? This has content types. It has specific layouts. And so I decided that, like, my goal right now is to try to create, this could be an install profile. Right now, the best way to do this in Drupal or in Backdrop would be to create an install profile. But I don't like install profiles for a number of reasons, one of which is you can only install them when you install the site, right? So, this whole idea of recipes and themes, you should be able to do that afterwards. So my thought right now is to just take this as an example. And I'm early enough in this project that I could switch from this to a different example if you had a different example that would be more appropriate. But the idea was to create some recipes that would create the content types and the components, and they could be paragraphs. For this site, I hadn't thought that paragraphs were necessarily important, but we could use paragraphs in this example, or we could switch to an example that uses paragraphs. But the idea would be that really I would create a couple of recipes. I would create a theme that provided the skin, and the skin would be specifically, designed to support these recipes, and that there would be kind of a glue code module, which I'm calling it. So I'm calling the theme Zever, and then there would be a module called Zever Contrib, Zever Config. And the Zever Config module might add some sample content. It might actually have some functionality in it, like a module, if needed. Mostly, I think it might do things like it might have some PHP to add a block to the front page that wouldn't normally be there, or things like that. But the idea is that module would require all of the recipes. So the end goal would be that a user could spin up a backdrop site, enable this theme and this one module. The module would automatically require a bunch of recipes. Once those are all installed, the site looks just like this, and it works. It has content types. It has a theme. And again, because recipes don't really support theming them, what we do is we'd create a theme that supports the recipes, but isn't required. The recipes could be independent, the theme could be independent, but the theme and the recipes together would work really well to create a site like this.
Okay, so here's a question I have
Yep.
for you. You say recipes and are not, maybe I'd misheard it, so I just want to double check.
No.
You're saying recipes are not themable.
No, they're themable, but you need a theme for them, right? The theme doesn't come with the recipe. Because
Yes,
you
the
can't
recipe
require.
cannot contain a theme. It can install a theme, but it cannot contain the theme as a
The recipe cannot contain templates. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
templates. I
No.
think maybe
it could possibly but basically anything a module. So, okay, there's what can a recipe theoretically do, and there's what should it do to be a recipe. Recipes are just modules. So you can create anything a module can do, a recipe can do. But then if we say that, then there's no meaningful, well, then what is a recipe? So I think about a recipe, basically I define the difference between a module and a recipe is that a recipe doesn't do anything on an ongoing basis. You can install a recipe, it will do all the configuration for you, and then you can disable it, and nothing is broken.
Okay.
That's the way I think about what makes a recipe different than just a regular module. So the problem you could definitely put a template file in a recipe, but if you did, then you can't disable the recipe.
the recipe. You cannot
Because
remove it.
the recipe would have to stay enabled in order for the template to work. And I have created some recipes that I can't disable. So we're sort of playing with the edges of that right now, right? What should go into a recipe and when shouldn't? And again, there is no official definition of a recipe. So you could absolutely create a recipe and put templates in it, but to me, then it's just a module, right?
Okay, kind of, yeah. Yes, that answers lots of my questions because I'm not 100% sure what is the best approach at this time. And because of that, I'm like that's very helpful because I just trying to find the right solutions.
So my own approach to this, Irina, is that I actually started so if you haven't seen it yet, I didn't create it in the Contrib space. So I created a personal project called Zever, and I've described my goals, okay, which is briefly what I just described to you. I've opened up issues. I've actually already created one recipe that I want to be part of this project. But overall, the purpose of this project for me is just to try something out, like a different way of combining recipes and themes to see how it works and hopefully create some discussion around this so that we can, as a community, come to better solutions. Like, I don't think the solution I'm pursuing right now is the best, but I'm hoping that if I get it working and people see value in it, then we'll come up with better solutions
Yeah.
and better ways to do these things.
But the key to what Tim said there, Irina, for your benefit, whilst you're developing whatever solution you are developing, is that if you have built that as a recipe, you should be able, when you run the recipe, it does what you do, and then disable the recipe and remove it from the site. Nothing should break. If it breaks, then you have passed the borders of what a recipe is and how it's meant to work.
Then you've
And
created a module, which is okay.
Exactly.
There's,
yes,
but
it's
there's
fine.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, what you can start doing then is to consider which bits of the code that you have written qualify as a module, rip it out of the recipe and create a smaller module just for that. And you say that my recipe requires this tiny module that does this tiny thing. It's abstracted, right? And the module, you cannot remove it from the site. The recipe, you can remove it. That's the key difference. That's how the recipes were meant to be created, function, right? So recipe you run, it does something on the site. It basically, how I see recipes is like scripts. We have tutorials, either written tutorials or video tutorials, and they have been working fine so far. People watch the video tutorial, they pause and they do what the tutorial and they learn. The point is to script everything that is in the tutorial so that you can press one button and it automatically runs these manual steps for you. That's it. That's what a recipe should be. So basically, we are automating the steps that a person would take in order to configure their site, install modules, install themes, and get a final product. That's what the recipe should be at the end. Just a script that you run it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've created some recipes that don't work that way.
Exactly.
So because I'm experimenting, and you should experiment too.
Right.
I look forward to trying your recipe. If you have it in a GitHub repo, and even if it's not in Contrib yet, I'd be happy to give it a try.
Yeah.
I
And
can upload it. One quick question would be, because I think that I do want to have templates. So if I'm doing, if I'm creating a template, right?
Yeah.
I haven't done it for a while, so I'm looking right now at the naming conventions, which I don't remember.
Oh, naming conventions, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just kind
so I would go, like, if you find out that you need the templates, then you should create either a module or a theme that is an accompanying theme to your recipe or module, and then call it maybe recipe name, whatever you call your recipe, underscore, I don't know, module, and underscore theme. So maybe this is like see how UberCart, you have UberCart, and then you have UberCart something else, and web form the same. So your recipe can run once, but any required code that might be very simple that needs to stay after your recipe goes needs to be either a theme or a module that stays on the site.
Well, Greg, I'm doing that experiment right now. I would encourage you, Irina, to do whatever she wants, because I want to see what she comes up with. And then we can talk about, after she's done it, like, oh, how could we have done that better?
Yes, the couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going, so I'm just kind of trying to understand. So your recommendation is to, instead of calling it, say I'm calling it components recipe, right? So do you say I should call it components? If I'm adding templates, then should I call it components recipe module, or keep it components recipe? Or what would be an ideal scenario?
There is no right answer to that because we
Yes.
haven't made a decision about what
Exactly.
recipes are. I have recipes right now that are called recipes, but they don't work if you uninstall them. So, I've already broken that rule. So I wouldn't worry about what you call it, although it might be time for us to come up with some sort of a standard. Like this should be called a recipe and this shouldn't. But we haven't done that yet. So there is no right or wrong answer yet. But maybe there should be.
Yeah, Joseph, just before you joined as well, I was discussing that you and I briefly contemplated on the idea that it's high time that we created a separate recipe type that is just, a series of
Well,
commands and with the couplet.
Personally,
I-
Irina, I don't want to stop Irina's works over semantics right
Yes,
now.
of course.
I want her
No,
to
Yeah.
keep
don't
going.
worry.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know me, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna just keep running and and when something, and then I'm gonna put it out there, and when people tell me, oh, this is not the right way to go, I'm fine. Tell me what's the right way to go.
Exactly. Yep.
Nice.
Yes.
Would
Nice.
Sorry,
recipe-
Joseph, what did you want to say, Joseph?
So I don't think that the recipe, for my use cases, I don't ever intend to remove the recipes from the site. So I don't see why you would have not have templates in them.
I see that argument too. It's just,
Like,
it's
and
like,
I
what is
I
a
feel like-
recipe? A recipe, right? Go ahead.
And I feel like if all we're doing is making less useful modules, then it's kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of like a waste of time if we're just creating modules that don't have module features.
Right. So then my question to you, Joseph, is then why call them recipes at all? Why not just call them modules? And I think I know the answer because I've talked to you about this before, is you would like a class of, and I'm saying this so you can confirm. I think your vision of recipes is that it's sort of a class of module that you can use to sort of say, I want to give my clients access to recipe modules, but not other modules. Is that correct? Is that fair?
Yes.
So
Like,
for you,
I want- I wanna-
the distinction between recipe and module is really just sort of a way of classifying them.
Yeah, at least for what I've been thinking.
Right.
But
Like, I want-
classifications and
I want to let people turn on and off things on the site,
Yeah.
without letting them turn off something like the DB log module.
Right. You just want to be able to give a permission that says this person has permissions to install recipes, but they don't have permission to do modules. And the only difference between recipes and modules is that permission, what you want. So we'd still have to give guidance then though to
Right.
recipe creators, right? When should they classify them as recipes and when not? Do you have an idea what that would be in your world, Joseph?
I do not, but I think templates are something we should have in recipes,
Okay.
because if you're creating a new, if you're adding a new display to all your content types in a view to use that display, then having a template would be really useful there. So
Yeah. My working definition of recipes is just a convenient one. I'm totally willing to be talked into a different definition. I just want a definition so that I know Luke wants to say something. Go ahead, Luke, and then we should wrap this up for the other meeting.
all right, I wanted to speak, but I hijack so easily. I want to make sure that that was understood. So I mean, as implementers, we get caught a lot of times in sort of how we do things. Whereas I think for something like this, for a user-focused product, the key is really how the market is going to use them and going to perceive them. So it kind of doesn't matter if you have two things that are implemented the same. I mean, a romance novel and an auto repair book are both pages in a book, right? But they have different audiences and they can do different things. So another thing I was gonna say, just the word recipe, if it's sort of branded like that, a real world recipe, you can't undo it. You follow a recipe, you bake the cake, and then the cake is baked. You can't pull it out of it.
Yeah.
It's a one-way thing.
Would templates and recipes include CSS? And if so, would it be alterable?
Yeah.
Or would it go
That's
away?
another question that we were
Yeah.
talking about. We don't have an answer for right now. So if you didn't uninstall recipes, then they could include CSS, and that would be an advantage of Joseph's model. And Joseph's model of a recipe is that it could include CSS and it could include template files. So, but it wouldn't be editable in the UI. That would be a different issue.
My not argument, my question would
Yeah.
be, how are recipes then different to modules?
Well, that's what as we've said many times, that's what we would have to figure out. Joseph's given the use case, okay, but he hasn't defined the borders. The use case is, I want to give somebody access to use recipes, but I don't want to give them access to use UberCart, right? To install UberCart or to install, right? So Joseph's looking at it as a classification of a module. This is a kind of module that just does things that I'm willing to give to, say, a site editor, but I don't want to give them access to all of the modules. So,
Yeah.
but what the border is, we don't know yet.
Yeah, and then yeah, I think we're like, this is gonna get a longer discussion, and we need
Yes.
to. Well, actually, we have some time
I
until.
think-
Is Nate joining us? Are we gonna run
I
the
don't know.
dev meeting?
Probably
Yeah.
not, you said.
Oh, did he say something in Tulip?
Yeah.
Jen did.
So
Go ahead.
I just want to say real quick that I haven't really done very much with it. So I haven't run into, like, I'm sure there's going to be problems with my use case, but I don't know what they are yet because I haven't gotten that far.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
how do we-
important, maybe it's important to define the use case of what you're trying to do, and then look at what you want to include in a recipe.
Right. And so
What-
like I have a multi-site running on a couple of servers that my dad and I have set up. And when people ask us to set up a website for them, we have a script, and I run the script, and it creates a new website in our multi-site. And I give them the admin username and password, and I say, have fun. And everything that could break the multi-site has been locked down, and they don't have access to that. But I want to give them as much freedom and flexibility as I can. Just I don't want everything. I don't want them to be able to like change the files directory so that they can like mess up the multi-site.
Right.
Okay.
Could you, Joseph, could you decouple the bits of your recipe that need to stay into smaller modules, and then the recipe would be everything that is a thing just that runs once and that's it. So the recipe would be the script that would automate manual tasks, even installing modules, and what needs to stay behind, like specific UIs for certain features that are accessible by these people. Everything else is a module or a theme or multiple modules and themes that the recipe calls, installs, and then leaves them in place. So you know that the recipe will need 2 themes or whatever, 1 theme and 3 modules that are small. They do very small, specific, specialized tasks. So these will never leave. So the recipe runs, install those, and you can have them hidden, so they're not even in the UI. And then when they remove the recipe, the tasks that were done, maybe adding content, maybe configuring permissions or a new role, all these things would stay behind along with the hidden modules or themes, and then the recipe bit would be able to be uninstalled. That's what I was thinking, that would sort of like distinguish a recipe from a module, because all the bits that we need for the recipes to do these things are there. We have the project browser, so we can instruct a recipe to download and install modules and enable them. We can do that.
I'm going to make a proposal, which is that we form a recipe working group to come up with a proposal for
Yes.
what recipes are that we can then say yes or no to. And then that small group of people can talk about it. And obviously, Joseph and I want to be on that working group. But all we would be in Luke, probably a lot of the people here, maybe even, we'll definitely want to talk to Irina if she doesn't, but you may want to be on it too. The idea would be, I think we just have 1 or 2 meetings where we just try to hash out what should recipes be, how should they work?
Yep.
And then we'll have guidance for people who are creating modules about recipes. Like if you're creating a recipe browser, but anyways, I think we need we need a consensus on one proposal rather. Right now, we're just sort of going back and forth and not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we should do that. Schedule a meeting. If one of the live events was close, it would be ideal, but it's a few months away. So maybe we should do sooner, like create
my
a.
recommendation would be to have a group talk about it before that, and then at the next live event, we have an open discussion about
Yes.
the proposal.
Yes, let's do that.
So that by the next Backdrop Live, we have a specific proposal of what recipes are. That means, Irina, until you and I, or until that event, it's the Wild West. We can do whatever we
Yes,
want.
you can do whatever you want.
Call it recipes. Because
That
there's
is
no
my
sheriff. What?
Great. Well, there are some, what do they call it? There's a rule of law, even without that's what we go by. I will very much appreciate expertise today. If somebody can point me into correct naming conventions for paragraph components. And I'm happy to share I can share my screen, or I'd be happy to, if somebody can send me the link and say these are instructions, that's what you need to do.
Irina, maybe you should start if there's not a thread existing in Zulip, maybe you should start a
Okay.
discussion, put the code
can-
somewhere publicly that would help people, and then I'm sure that there's going to be interest. I for once will at least test what you have produced and provide feedback.
Okay, because I don't I'm just trying to remember if my paragraph is called block. If configure, say paragraph or alert, right? What's the template for that? Is it paragraph item underscore alert? Or there's somewhere some instructions.
I don't remember. Maybe Laren would be, if you ping Laren, he's worked a lot with paragraphs, so he's sort of like I think he's also the maintainer for the paragraphs module in Contrib. I might be wrong, but I think so.
Okay,
Maybe
I'll check with him.
ping them. Yeah, double check with him.
Absolutely, thanks.
We're still in a design meeting, right?
Yes, we're probably going to wrap it up and actually let's do that now. Tim, are you still there to stop the recording? Yeah, I don't have the power to stop the recording,
Thanks, see you
unfortunately.
later.
See you, Irina.
I'm going to take off too. I just wanted to jump in for the recipes conversation. So
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no worries. Thanks for joining. Right. I think that Tim has stepped away and he's the host, so I cannot stop the recording. So this is still being recorded.
Hmm.
We can still have a discussion about other things. What were you thinking, Joseph, with regards to, since we were on the topic of recipes, you and I briefly at the end of towards the end of the meetings, we sort of like, Tim's back. Tim, actually, we were thinking to wrap this meeting up.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the
Stop the
recording.
recording?
Okay.